Hello everybody, it's Skaaro the Red once again, and tonight, instead of my usual story time, I decided I wanted to do a short video that I've been wanting to redo for a while, and that's my current Ranger build. It's a Warden Ranger, and for this build I'm going to show you a little bit what I did with my skills and powers and how I'm using them now. Right now I've started a Warden Expedition, so I'm going to slot one rune for that and run solo on it, and we'll get started here. Ranger has changed so much since, even since mod 16. They fixed a few things and whatnot, but I guess first I'll go over my powers and stuff here, what I'm using. Let me change my companion, because this companion I've just been training here is the Ghost. And I'll go over my companions here momentarily. First I wanted to go into my powers. This is my Warden build, where I slotted everything here. Death Strikes is nice, that gives you a little bit, 10% more damage every time you switch stances. As you can see, it's a Warden, of course. Swiftness of the Fox, and that like whenever you use melee powers, it shortens down the cooldown of ranged encounter powers, and ranged encounter powers shorten the cooldown of melee encounter powers by 1 second. So that's the cooldown knock is great, because then you can keep a rotation going with almost non-stop encounters. But Rangers actually got half decent at-wills as well, and we'll get into that once I start playing an Undermountain here. Blade Hurricane, using melee encounter power, grants flurry for 3 seconds, so that gives me double damage on my melee at-will attacks, which is great, because, and you'll see that in the gameplay when I move in real fast with Marauder's Escape, or Marauder's Rush, I mean. That comes in handy, because then bang, that's your melee right away, and then then you can just start dropping at-wills on them, and Clear the Ground is great at-will, because it slices the entire area around you, and it's like I said, you're getting double damage off, so it's magnitude 20 or sitting there like that, but your magnitude is 40 then, which is the same magnitude that you get out of Electric Shot with half the casting time. So we'll get into next feat that I took here is Skirmisher's Gambit, where your crit strike is reduced by 3,000, but your severity is increased by 30%. A knock of 3,000 off of your critical strike score is nothing, because as you can see, I'm 7,000 points over cap, which is, all stats are capped at 80k anyways. And but back to my powers, and then the last one, of course, and I went over that. The last one I took is Enhanced Conductivity, which Call of Storm now enhances your weapon with additional 50 magnitude damage boost, which is awesome. And Call of the Storm is just a great daily power. In my opinion, it's one of the best daily powers in the whole game. But it not only does it deal 330 magnitude damage right away, but it also enhances your weapon with, it says 30 here, but because of this now it's a 50 magnitude damage boost on all your attacks for the duration of that. And it doesn't last long, it's only 10 seconds, but 10 seconds is a long time in combat these days. So the powers that I'm actually slotted in my tray, I'm using Boar Hide and Boar Charge, because Boar Charge is just incredible. It's a huge, it's one of the, I think it's one of the Ranger's strongest skills. And then I'm using Constricting Arrow and Steel Breeze here. I was also, at times, I will use this one, Binding Arrow and Oakskin. Binding Arrow is 550 magnitude, again, another huge magnitude skill that does good. And Oakskin comes in handy when you're in a rough spot and you need a little bit of healing. It's a little heal over time. It doesn't seem like a lot. It heals allies or heals you for 9% of your max hit points over duration, and increases incoming healing by 10%. So if you hit a potion after using that or something, then as well as the heal over time, you're also getting a bonus on your potion. Thornward's a terrible skill, useless. Same thing with the old skills like Cord of Arrows and Plant Growth, useless. Constricting Arrow, Steel Breeze, that's awesome. Marauders Escape, Marauders Rush, it's almost essential now, and it does great damage both ways, in and out. And like I said, it procs your Death Strikes, it also procs your a Blade Hurricane, and what else? Right now, I was using Crushing Roots because Constricting Arrow fires strong Grasping Roots, so I am using Crushing Roots again, and because it adds a daze to the target for a half second, and my strong Grasping Roots gives me a daze for a whole second on them, which is, with a Ranger, it's helpful. But I also like to use Aspect of the Serpent as well, because it's just a straight up damage boost, you know. And it also stacks up as well, so it adds a stacking buff on there. So when you're switching stances a lot like I am, Aspect of the Serpent's also really great. And but for right now, mainly for survivability, I'm using Crushing Roots. Twin Blade Storm is, I always have that on pretty well for any loadout that I'm using here. And we'll get on my character. My gear, I mean, I've got the Alabaster stuff. I'm using a Lantern because it's Armor Pen crit and CA. I'll probably change that out later depending on what stats I need. Like as it is now, I'm even I switched pets recently to the Deep Crow Hatchling, my companions, I mean, and so that changed up my skills a little bit, and I've got to rebalance them. I've got to take a bit off Critical Strike somewhere and add it back into Armor Pen. You want to get everything up as close as you can to 80k, so I'm doing pretty good with crit, Armor Pen, and accuracy are all up there. And those are three of the big ones, at least for a Ranger anyways. I'm still using the Demon Lord set, artifact set, the Infernal Talisman, the Girdle of Might, and the Orcus, Shard of Orcus wand. It's still, as far as DPS goes, none of the new sets really stack up to it. It's still, as far as my testing's gone, it seems to be the best set because it deals 20% additional damage based on the difference in hit point percentage between the player and target. So the more damage they take, the more it increases the bonus damage that this thing's giving you. And a lot of other sets don't do that. The Lost Malts set's pretty good too for certain kind of builds. Lost Malts is nice for a DOT build, damage over time stuff, like because they crit a lot. So Lost Malts procs off its crit. But for my Ranger, I like the Demon Lord set, and when I've done testing with Arc with it, it seems I get a little bit more damage out of it. And the rest of this stuff is just stuff I got out of Nox boxes and or Zox boxes, I mean, and Master Expeditions. So that's Gurdon's Defense, that just drops from Master Expedition. Crown of Lost King, that's a lot of this is the 1k stuff that I just got out of Zox boxes. You just, when you do the Master Expeditions, you get these where are they? These little fellas here, rune etchings, and then you trade them in to Zoc, the NPC near the banker in at the Yawning Portal, and then you open the boxes and you get this stuff, as well as other great stuff that you can sell, artifact sets and whatnot. And here, this one I like because of daily powers proc on it, but it's just filling in gaps. It's rings, especially rings and shirts and pants. Like I switch them around a lot to fill up these stats depending on whatever else is balancing it. Same thing with the artifacts. I'm gonna have to change a lot of them up to rebalance my stats. This one is the Heart of the Blue Dragon, and crit, accuracy, combat advantage. The Sigil of the Ranger, power and accuracy. I'm probably going to eventually switch this one out because of the crit strike on it, and I'm going to switch that for something that gives me power instead. Maybe the Siegebreaker banner. This is a nice one, but I got to upgrade it still. And Lantern of Revelation, of course, went over that. In terms of my enchantments and stuff, I like the Vorpal. It's only rank 8 right now, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I've been investing in a lot of other things at the moment, companions for my alternate characters and whatnot. But Radiance and one Tenebrous enchantment. There's no point in having more than one of those. And here Radiance, and for my defense I just put Azures for defense on everything. In my armor I put a Bark Shield in it, and my utility slots I put tactical enchantments in all of them, because like I said, sometimes I use that Oak Skin skill, and these tacticals, each one of them is going to add 2.7% incoming healing on it. And I've got those slotted in, as you can see, a number of different items. At least 4 or 5 items have them. 4 of them, yeah. 5 counting the wrist guard. So 5 items have those. And each one is, where is it? 2.7%. So, I'm not going to add it up, but almost 15% anyways. Bonus, so yeah, roughly 15% bonus healing because of all that from my potions and from my oak skin, which is, like I said, is handy in certain situations. So that's pretty well about it for this stuff here. I mean, when I did my ability scores, it's Ranger, it's any DPS, strength, and dex. My boons, same as pretty well any other DPS build boons. I still got a couple more to fill in here and here, and you know, I just got to work on it, pick away at it with the legacy system and whatnot, because I've got several characters. I've got actually about 4 or 5 characters that I'm actually still using, so it's a lot to run through in a day, especially with the master expeditions. But that's really the best use of time is master expeditions, and then grinding stuff for my stronghold. Companions, this is important because a large amount of your stats are bonding off these companions, and then so you want to use an augment companion. Deep Crow is nice because, and I'll show you why. Enhancement gives additional bonus to critical strike, deflect, and awareness shared with the owner, and it also gives you this right here, power, Deep Crow's presence, which is an additional 6,000 power. I mean, eventually I'm going to switch this Deep Crow out for a Violet Pup or something else that will put an additional power enhancement in here, because like I said, I don't really need crit or deflect, or even, well, a little bit of awareness is nice, but I don't even really need these stats right now. But again, this is probably the best I got. I also have an owlbear cub, which is another nice one to have. I mean, it's but it didn't turn out to be as great. I'll probably end up leveling up a Quasit later, or I'll just buy a Bulette pup. I mean, what you spend leveling up a companion and is versus what you can just buy it for, is sometimes it's better just go on the auction house and just buy the companion. And the equipment on your companion, you're just, I put empowered and everything for the power, of course, empowered runestones. And this one's got a couple of profane runestones. I could probably switch those out and shave off that crit, that extra crit I got here. And then I could put in more power enchantments into that. But I'll worry about that later. I'm going to get on with this expedition momentarily and show you some of my gameplay. I'm using potency. That's 2,000. 2,000 power, chance on hit to increase your power by 2,000. I'm using a minstrel for the minstrel's discipline. That's an additional 2,000 power, and this minstrel's not even a high level. I think it's like a green or blue or something. There he is. He's blue. He's only blue quality. So and I'm getting 2,000 off him. Minstrel's a really cheap pet that you can buy really early in the game and start using right away. And I always get it as a first pet for almost every character I go with, because that 2,000 power bonus is just great. I'm using Hunting Hawk's Presence. And again, this is another one I've got to level up. I think it's only blue quality also right now, yeah. So as I rank it up, I haven't even finished doing these levels either yet. Again, some of these companions you can't just go buy a rare quality or epic quality one or whatever. You just got to rank them up yourself. So that's going to cost me a few AD. I also like the Ghost Wisdom. There's another 2,000 power and 1,000 crit strike right there. And that's another one. Again, it's still only blue quality. I just bought it, so I'm going to rank her up. As you've seen, I just sent her for training. And right now I'm using Cockatrice's Presence, 10% chance to do 30% weapon damage and root the source of damage. It actually happens fairly often, and it's helpful with a Ranger, because a lot of times you can root something and then escape its AoE or whatever. And so sometimes though I switch that up. Like, I mean, I've got a few in here. The owlbear is kind of useless. And I mean, depending on what I'm doing, I usually use the cockatrice, but sometimes I'll also switch it up with, you know, whatever I want to build my stats up with right now. What I do is I would switch one of these other ones like Ghost onto that slot, and then I would put something like Yeti Presence or something on here for an extra 4,000 power. But Yeti Presence, it does proc fairly often. It actually does proc fairly often. And then if I switch them around like that, as you can see, I can put, where is she? I thought I could, there it is. I could put my Ghost down here instead of the cockatrice, and then I grab that extra 4K power once in a while. But because I'm soloing a Master Expedition, I think I'm going to leave it the way I had it here. I'm going to put the cockatrice back on, and I'm going to get rid of Yeti Presence. 4K power is nice, but you got to get hit when hit. So you got to take damage, and I'd rather just have the extra 2K power from the Ghost all the time. And then as I level up the Ghost, I think that goes up to 6K or something. Same thing with the Minstrel. That's another one that goes up to 6K, maybe even more. So these two are cheap pets that you can grab early on and worth having. Deep Crow, of course, 6,000 power, and that's at purple quality. That goes way up too. So that's what I'm doing with my companions. My mount stable, nothing really special here. I look for a lot of healing kind of stuff off my mounts. When you drink a healing potion, you get a damage buff. Upon taking greater than 30% of your hit points and pre-mitigated damage from single blow to receive buffs to defense, critical, avoidance, deflect, and awareness. Barbarian Reveille on critical strike, get a heal. Champion's Return, when reduced 50% hit points, receive a heal over time and stamina. And Barbarian's Delight, same thing as Revelry, but just a little bit lower quality, a little bit weaker heal, but I think they both seem to go off anyways. So anyways, I'm going to get started on this without any more delay, and I'll show you guys a little bit of my Ranger gameplay and how I like to use him. Get some light wine, some of this, a little bit more movement speed, another buff, and let's go. I usually solo my Warden Expeditions because I'm greedy, but there's certain clothes I want and I don't want to have to roll on them, right, with a party, and it doesn't really take me that much longer to do it myself than it does with a full party anyways. So you can see I'm doing a lot of in and out of combat here. Here comes that nice daily. I gotta get away from here. As you can see, I'm burning. It's stuck in that fire. So I like to get in and out fast. It's kind of a hit and run tactic now, because you've got a lot of single target skills that are high damage. But the way we got this feat set up, we can use those single target skills to enhance our at-wills, those single target encounters. Nice thing about Warden Expeditions, I don't have to look for any runes, or relics I should say. I can just more or less zip through here as quick as possible. Watch out for this little exploding corruption here. There's usually one right in the middle over here too that I try to avoid. I'm going to go for the strongest mob here. And use my at-wills to... Holy jeez, that could have been worse luck, huh? really nice about that Marauder's Rush too is that I'm using the Root Stompers, so they're getting an additional damage because I'm quite a distance away from them, from my target when I use it. I'd like to swap out the helmet I'm using right now for the broken cap of the Omnipotent, but I haven't I got one on all my other characters, and I haven't got one for this guy yet. So. I hope I'm not stuck here. I'm almost considering putting in oak skin for now, but we'll see. Seem to be doing all right, but if I have trouble with any of the bosses later, I might have to reslot that skill. Oh, this guy hits twice. So I don't want to drag this video out too long, so I'll keep it to the length of this one dungeon through here. I mean, nobody wants to sit and watch me romp through these expeditions all day long. But just to I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of kind of rotations that I'm using and stuff. I'm not even using rotations that much anymore like I used to. A lot of times, well, look at this guy, eh? A lot of times it's just a matter of situational. It's you gotta read the situation and then use whatever skills suit according to what's going on. I can't get over how much I love that daily skill Call Lightning. It's fantastic. As I was showing you, I'm just trying to use the well, the way they seem to have laid out the feats for Ranger. They've really limited on what you can do, and that's going to be combat effective. And I mean, unfortunately, the old skills like Cordon of Arrows, for instance. But by the time the animation goes, I look at 170 magnitude. That's terrible. And by the time the animation's done, it's you could have dealt out more damage with your at-wills, for that matter. But unfortunately, most of the actually really useful skills for a Ranger have very little animation to them, like even this one. Like I'll do Boar Charge here on one of these enemies, and it looks like I did nothing. Like I just slid into the guy. But I hit him for over 102k damage there. Oh, these specters. They're annoying. Wasn't looking for relics. Okay, I might have glanced over there looking for relics. Especially if you're standing right beside the opponent already and you hit board charge, it looks like you did absolutely nothing. Your character just stands there looking completely still. See, I fired on this guy. He just falls down and it's like, why'd that guy fall over? So that's pretty well lit. I'm going to continue this expedition, and if anyone wants to watch, go ahead and keep watching. When I upload this to my YouTube channel, I'll shorten the video, so it's just this initial dungeon that I went through here, and so that's about it for the Ranger. Like I said, I went over the powers, feats, skills, the companions, and everything. That seems to be working for me. As you can see, I'm on a 1 rune expedition. I'm taking some damage, but I'm getting through the monsters nonetheless. I don't even need to use oak skin or anything. Nope, this is going to be a fast one anyways, by the looks of it, which is good. And it'll keep this boss fight in here too, because it's always fun to watch the boss fights, I suppose. Looks like we're fighting the Pteronaz today. Ugh, nasty looking thing. Well, let's cut him down to size. Oh, I was too slow on that. I was going to try to use the escape, but I was too slow. It's because I used that other skill first. That's enough for this board charge. But I mean, I've seen full parties even take longer than that to take some of these bosses down. So I mean, soloing these expeditions is not really hard, and like I said, it's much more lucrative too, because you get all the drops. You don't have to roll on anything, right? The next one should also be another boss fight, which is great. I love the boss fights. But as you can see, with oh yeah, heavy steps. We'll see about that. That's what I think of your heavy steps. So what I usually like to do in most encounters is walk in with constricting arrow right away, because it's got a radius on it, so it adds roots to a number of targets and pretty well stops everything from charging back at you. And then I'll follow that up with the boar hide to give myself a bit of a defense boost. And then I charge in with, if I'm close enough, I'll use boar charge because it's higher magnitude, and usually by using boar hide or even this, it's proccing death strikes for my next encounter. And then at that point, I'll just use Marauder's Rush to charge in. If I'm far, if I'm close enough, I'll use boar charge, and then from there on, I just Steel Breeze or whatever, and then I'll hit escape to jump back out. And if you're watching my cooldown timers, everything usually is pretty close to evened out by then. It's very rarely I just have to stand there firing at-wills, even though my at-wills are actually not half bad. They're better than they were when Mod 16 came out, because they were really weak back then. I'm sure they, either that or I've just improved my character that much more, but... This is the Warden here. Warden versus Warden here. Might be a tough battle. If I die, I might have to switch up some skills and start using oak skin or something. We shall see. This guy might not be all that tough. Gotta be especially careful up here using Marauder's Escape. You can knock yourself right off the edge. I call Owlbear. I always feel like I'm playing Pokemon when I summon the Owlbear. All I need is a little Pokeball for a throw out there. The nice thing about Boar Charge too is it's an interrupt. Because of the knockdown effect on it, so it often interrupts casting. See, I'd be targeted for that AoE, but I was able to hit him with board charge in time. And that's that. So this is my my Hui Jian Ranger build, and this is what works for me. Maybe not the best build there is. Maybe there's better builds out there, but from what I've tested and tried for my character and for the way I'm playing him now, this is seems to be the best damage, the best use of his skills and feats, and it's still kind of fun to play too. It's reminiscent of days gone by, like going back to like Mod 6, I think it was. The Ranger was a very similar gameplay to this, and they kind of took it back to that. It's not so much the trapper anymore, where you would try to draw them into your crazy damage over time AoEs that would 100% crit, and that just was getting ridiculous. And but I'm starting to enjoy the single target, high damage, you know, and even like your AoEs like that are pretty good too. Like your at-wills for AoE is fine. It's your at-will AoE is like lightning shot and that one there. What's it called? Like sorry, electric shot and clear the ground. Those do more AoE damage pretty well than any of your AoE skills, because I mean, even Cordon of Arrows, you drop it's only gonna hit one enemy. Unless you drop it on a group of enemies, which it's only going to hit 3 of them anyways, and it's pretty low magnitude. Same thing with this too. Plant growth, the DOT is very weak now. It's only lasted 4 seconds. It's 115 magnitude, you know, and even these ones, split the sky. You know, it's lasting 10 seconds, but it's only slowing them. It's doing very low damage. It doesn't strike very often. It's not adding a lot to your character here. This is nice, binding arrow and oak skin. Like I said, I'll use this if I'm feeling that I needed to. Like if I had died a couple times in that Warden Expedition, I would have definitely slotted one of these. But I think everybody pretty well gets it from here. And hope you enjoyed my video. And thank you all for watching. You can find me on YouTube as Skaaro the Red. You can watch me on Twitch here, on twitch.tv/Skaaro the Red. I do my stories every Sunday night, The Ridiculous Ballad of Skaaro the Red. And so if you enjoy what I'm doing, share it, like it, thumbs up, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know what to do. Upvote. I love you all, and have a good evening.